What's up, coaches? You're tuned in to Keep Your Pads Down. We are all about the defensive line, and this is episode number 70. So thank you for checking us out today. Now, I'm really excited about getting to our guest, but first, I want to tell you about something that we got going on tomorrow night. If you're a defensive line coach, you're going to want to be a part of. Tomorrow night, if you're watching this on Monday, July 27th, tomorrow night, July 28th at 7:30 p.m., Coach Peter Noonan, who is the host of the Tuesday night Disruption Chat on Twitter, and he's also the defensive tackles coach at Pflugerville-Hendrickson High School. He and I are hosting the Disrupt the Pads D-Line Coaches Roundtable discussion. We're going to be doing that via Zoom and have a panel of 5 coaches who will be answering your submitted questions and some live ones as well. So if you are a D-line coach, and this is something that you won't want to miss. We have a great panel of coaches lined up for you, some of whom have been on this podcast before, and I'm really excited about talking some D-line play with those guys and with you as well tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Central. Now, if you want to be a part of our discussion, then check out the notes in today's episode of this video. You can also look at the our podcast page, Twitter page, at KYPD Podcast for that information as well. You can find the link there. So who are the 5 coaches on our panel that will be taking your questions tomorrow night? So glad you asked. Here they are. First up, we got Coach Shane Martin, who's the defensive coordinator at Mart High School in Mart, Texas. Those guys are winners of 3 straight 2A state championships, and Coach Martin was also a guest on our podcast, episode number 49. He brings a ton of great knowledge and insight to our discussion. Next up is Coach Brent Milby. Now, Coach Milby and I have a little bit of a background. We coached together for 4 years at Kerrville-Tivy High School. He is currently actually a defensive coordinator in our district here at with Pleasant Grove. He's a defensive coordinator over at Paris North Lamar High School. But last season, he spent the last few seasons at Paul Pewitt High School just down the road, where he was a defensive coordinator there and helped lead those guys to an appearance in the state championship game this past season. So really excited to get to talk with Coach Milby. Up next is Coach Andy Clark, who's the D-line coach at Aledo High School in Aledo, Texas. Coach Clark is another KYPD alum from episode number 46 and has helped the Aledo Bearcats win 3 of the past 4 5A Division II state championships. Is well-versed on defensive line, the technical side of D-line play, so really excited about having Coach Clark helping us out with this. Next up is Coach Trey Bryant, who is a defensive line coach at McKinney High School. He's also a Baylor Bear football alum, played nose guard for the Baylor Bears. Really bright, young defensive line coach. Excited to have him on as well. Haven't had him on the podcast yet, so maybe that's something we need to take care of after this. So excited about Coach Bryant joining us. Finally, our lone college representative, which is by design. We wanted to have coaches from smaller high schools on up to big high schools, and then have a college coach as well. And that is Coach Mike O'Gwen, who is currently the assistant D-line coach up there at South Bend, Indiana for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But if you're in Texas or if you've listened to this podcast, Sandy, you're probably familiar with Coach O'Gwen because it wasn't too long ago, 2 years ago, that he was coaching at Galena Park North Shore and helping those guys win an unbelievable state championship game over Duncanville before heading to Texas Tech as a GA, and now he's at Notre Dame as an assistant D-line coach. Coach O'Gwen is no doubt a rising star in the coaching profession, and will have some great stuff for us. So excited he is going to be helping us out with our discussion tomorrow night. Okay, so let's get to today's guest. Today, I am joined by a defensive coordinator whose defense has really started to turn some heads down here in Texas and translated to a lot of success for their program. And I'm not going to read off all of his stats and bio and everything right now because we do talk about that. We cover that in our conversation today. But really, really excited to be joined by Coach Zach Wilkerson, who's the defensive coordinator at Hardin Simmons University there in Abilene, Texas. Our conversation with Coach Wilkerson today, we focus primarily on their Joker package, which is a 3-safety look. And so we get into talking about their fronts and their coverages that they roll out with that look. So it is a great conversation. Excited for you to hear it. So let's go ahead and get to it. Here is Coach Zach Wilkerson on episode number 70 of KYPD.
Okay.
Well, Coach Wilkerson, welcome to the podcast here. Excited to talk some defense with you tonight.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
Yeah, well, Coach, you're currently the DC there at Hardin Simmons University in Abilene, and you guys have really been stout on defense in your time there, in your 6 years there. And I'm going to, everybody watching this, just kind of bear with me. I'm going to rattle off some stats here, and I think that These are some stats that you gave me, and I thought that we needed to start off our conversation here by reading these off because they are very impressive. You guys have won a conference championship. You led the ASC in scoring defense twice. You've had 4 playoff appearances. In 2019, you guys led the ASC in scoring defense and finished with the best defense in school history. Defensively, y'all finished 8th in the country in scoring defense, 4th in the country in total defense, 4th in the country in passing defense, and 4th in the country in third down defense. And to top it all off, this year you were recognized in Dave Campbells Texas Football magazine as one of the top 40 coaches under the age of 40. So, hey, we're 2019, 2020 has been kind of a kick in the shin for a lot of us. The Hardin Simmons Cowboys and Coach Wilkerson have done all right. So we're going to talk about specifically today about your defense and about a sub package you guys like to employ. Before we get to all that, give us just a quick rundown on your background, where you grew up, how you got into coaching, and some of your influences.
Yeah. Again, appreciate you having me on tonight. Kind of my story. I grew up in Keller, Texas, and grew up there my whole life. Went to Fossil Ridge High School and graduated there in 2002, and then went to small college in Kansas Wesleyan University. Lots of people might not have heard of that, but it's in Salina, Kansas. And played ball there for 4 years. Had some success there. We won a conference championship, made the playoffs, and those things. And then wanted to get into coaching, and it was really my college coaches that got me into it. I wanted to do high school coaching whenever I went into college, and then being in college, I kind of wanted to stick with the college arena. So, my defensive coordinator at the time, Colby Hensley, and our head coach there, Dave Dallas, really inspired me to compete and get into college coaching. And then I got my first opportunity right after graduation. I got a graduate assistant job at Southwest Baptist University. It's Division II school up in Bolivar, Missouri. And then was there for 2 years as a GA, and then got promoted on full time as a defensive backs coach. And then a year later, got right place at the right time and was able to get the defensive coordinator job there. And we spent 6 years in Bolivar, and then took a job as the defensive backs and special teams coordinator at Northwest Mississippi Community College. We were there for a very short stint before going to Mississippi College as the defensive coordinator in 2013. And then in 2014, I accepted the defensive coordinator job here at Hardin Simmons. It's a lot closer to home for me and my wife and my family. And so, we spent the whole time being 9 hours away from family. Now we're 2 hours away. So it's been great getting back to Texas and being able to recruit the state of Texas again as well. So we're fired to be back home, and it's been a great 6 years, going on 7 years now.
No doubt, and I'm sure it's been good to feel like you can put some roots down in a place, after spending what sounds like a lot of your early part of your career moving around, and to be able to put some roots down so close to home, especially as a college football coach, is definitely a rarity in the profession for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, we went on a stretch there where we moved 4 times in 13 months to 3 states. So it's nice to find the place you want to stay at.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about I believe you guys call it your Joker package, and we did kind of a side story for the guys watching this. You guys were on our radar back in the season. We were looking at putting in some 3 high safety stuff, and our head coach's dad coaches at East Texas Baptist, and he was telling us about this defense that you guys got in, and was just drawing it up on the board, and so we started looking at it and tinkering with it, and it's something that we used later in the playoffs and even in our state championship game. And so I'm excited to talk about it, and just want to go ahead and pass the baton on to you and let you start your presentation. But looking forward to talking some defense and some 3 high stuff with you tonight.
No problem. Perfect. I'll get started and share my screen here with you. As we're going along, if you have any questions on anything at all, just stop me and we'll get it rolling.
Perfect.
And so, we already kind of talked about the background of everything. So our Joker package for us, we're taking out, we base out of a 4-3 defense is what we base out of. But we utilize a 3-man front a lot. Our whole philosophy on defense is multiplicity with simplicity. And with that, we live by the mindset of less is more. We want to be we want to be very simple with our guys, but we want to make it look like we're extremely multiple in what we can show the offense. And so, for us, a lot of times we might have freshmen or sophomore compete for those starting roles, and we got to have a scheme that's simple enough to be able to insert guys and kind of plug and play and let those guys have success by not overthinking what's going on. And so for us, we're taking out a defensive tackle and we're putting in an extra safety. And so, we still have 3 linebackers on the field, but now we're getting to an extra third safety on the field as well. And for us, why Joker and, why the 3 safety stuff? One, simplification. It makes it's a simple scheme for us. In fact, we run the exact same stuff in the back end as we do out of our 4-3 defense. So, our back 7 actually don't have to learn anything new. The guy that has to learn everything that's new is going to be the extra safety coming on the field. He's the guy that kind of does something a little bit different. But for everybody else, the coverage stuff's going to be the same as what we do have a 4-man front. We do have a couple things that we can do have a 3-man front that we don't do have a 4-man front, but, the majority of the stuff we do is the same stuff. Our philosophy up front is we want to gain our 3 for their 5. We want those 3 D tackles or 3 D linemen to eat up those 5 offensive linemen, and we want to force everything to the C gaps. And so that's been huge for us there. We want to eliminate the inside run gaps. Again, we want to force everything to bubble to the perimeter and be able to utilize our speed and our leverage to be able to make the plays we need to make. Also, matchup versus skills. That's the name of the game right there is matchup football. And so for us, it allows us to be so much more multiple and be able to take away so many more throwing windows to allow us to have success. And then last is overlap on the football. Being a 3-man front and having extra safety, we have a lot of hats that can overlap to the ball. And so it makes it really difficult for offenses to be able to hit big plays in the run or the pass game because you're able to take away more of the field. And then for us, we utilize it pretty much every game. It's utilized as a 3rd down passing scenario defense. But if we're playing an air raid type offense that's going to major in 10 and 11 personnel and they're going to be up tempo and doing all those things, we played this year. I think we played 3 games or 4 games where we played exclusively 3-man front to get that extra matchup on the field for us. And so, over at the end of the season, this is where we ended up. We were 60% of the season in a 4-man front, and 40% of the time we were in a 3-man front. So we were pretty active in both fronts, which again allows us to be pretty multiple and give offenses different looks to where they have to figure out game plan wise what are they going to see. And so one thing I have here for you is I have a few clips right now. It's just showing the multiplicity of the scheme, and then we'll kind of talk about specifics, but just to be able to show you really a lot of the different things you can do with it. And really it's kind of an unlimited playbook as far as what you want to do out of it. You got to kind of be careful and not get too much in for the kids. But, here's some stuff that we've done out of this past season, or if you want to bring pressures, now it allows you to where you can sit there and have better pass protection because you're able to get more safeties on the field and be able to handle vertical routes and still be able to attack protections, be able to rush 5. And, for us, we play 3 under 3 deep, we play 2 under 3 deep, we play some matchup zones. And so for us, it just gives us a lot of different ways to where we can try to attack protections or attack run schemes to try and gain numbers in both the run game or the pass game. We got to make a determination there. So, like right here, we can sit there and this is a 3rd down and, 16, where we can sit there and show the illusion of pressure and make it seem like we're playing a soft coverage behind it. And then on the snap, we can back out and you're sitting there dropping 8 and you're going showing 2 high and you're spinning the single high on the snap just to try and get those quarterbacks different looks and set yourself up for success. For us, my big philosophy on pressure is the threat of the blitz is bigger than the blitz itself. We want to make sure offenses, we are going to bring pressure, but a lot of times we're going to do a lot of false pressures. We're going to do a lot of overloads and just try to find ways to attack protections. And here, it doesn't matter if we're playing a 12 personnel team, we're able to still stay in it right here. And again, here in a minute, I'll get into the specifics of who everybody is and what their responsibilities is. I just want to show you guys just that, regardless of personnel, regardless of what you're seeing, you're able to sit there and get however many hats you need in the box. You're able to get the matchups in the pass game. Here's a big game versus Marion Baylor this season. Now in this structure here, we went from 3 backers and 3 safeties to taking out a linebacker and putting in a 4th safety and getting to a nickel package, if you will, out of this. It's already, so now we're sitting there with a 3-2 on a 3rd down, and we're able to play cover 1. And now we can invert it. Instead of using backers as the low hole player, you can sit there and put a safety as the low hole player and try to find different ways to generate pressure, but also be a little bit more sound in the back end because, safety is going to be a little bit better playing high to low, and you can show a 2-man look like we did there, and then they'll roll to single high. And so for us, it's just about creating confusion, simple stuff for our guys where they understand what we're trying to get accomplished. But for opponents, we want to make it as difficult as possible. And as quarterbacks, we want the pre-snap read to be very blurry for those quarterbacks. The one thing we try to avoid, we don't want the quarterback walking up to the line of scrimmage and knowing automatically where the one-on-one is on the field. If they line up there and they see your one-on-one at the boundary, they can check fade, they can check slant, pipe, out route, whatever they want to do. But if you're a quarterback, you know where the one-on-one is. That's where you're going to go. That's the easiest thing to do for all that stuff there. So for us, if we can disguise the one-on-one and force that quarterback to have to make a read on the fly, we feel like we have a better chance of success of getting an effect in the quarterback. Here's an example of here playing an option team, and here we're getting to a 3-4 defense using the safeties. So now you're sitting there getting to a 3-4 and using another safety as an overlap player and then putting the boundary safety as your outside linebacker, and you're able to get to the same scheme. And for us, this is we create our run fits through pass coverage. So we use the coverages. The coverages dictate run fits for us. It's not dictated by the front, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
for us, everything in the back end is just tags. It's kind of how offenses are doing it nowadays, where you see all the hurry up, no huddle offense. Everything is concepts with tags, and that's all we're doing defensively. It's concept with tags. And to make it simple for our kids to be able to line up, play football, move around, and make it look like we're doing a whole lot more than we really do. For our guys, our package is actually pretty small with this, but it looks we can smoke and mirror and dress it up to make it look like we're doing a lot of different things. Here again, showing pressure, give the illusion that we can bring a 6-man pressure, and then on the snap, we're sitting there able to play a squats and halves concept. And take everything away and try to force that offense to kind of do what we want them to do. And they'll gain numbers in the run game, gain numbers in the pass game. And so, again, it's more of a smoke and mirrors concept for us, especially on 3rd down. We're going to try and show a lot of different looks for us, whether it's front, whether it's with the linebackers, whether it's with the safeties on movement. And a lot of that – and we practice. That's something we talk about on a daily basis with those guys. And that's something you have to be able to do. If you line up and do the same thing every single time, you can get good at it, but also they're going to find, weaknesses for you. Here, it's 3rd down or 4th down and 18. We're able to play Tampa. We're playing Tampa sticks. It's where we just back up and play Tampa from depth. So you don't get an issue where guys are playing too tight on a long yardage scenario. And again, giving the illusion of a 4-man front and then backing out and rushing 3. And so it gives us just gives us more multiplicity of what we can do and what we can show. Same thing here, 21 personnel now, and you're playing the same thing, and you're able to gain numbers in the pass concepts and be able to take away everything offenses are going to try to do. When we talk to our defense, we're going to tell them that there's 2 ways you get beat on defense. The first thing is you lose leverage on the football. That's the first way to get beat on defense. The second one is to get beat over the top. So everything that we do defensively is designed to attack those 2 things. Is it great versus leverage, and is it great versus the vertical passing attack? And if the answer is yes, then we're going to make sure that those will be things that we do quite a bit of. So I know I didn't really talk about the specifics of those clips, and that's okay. I just wanted to, we'll see a lot of those clips later on. I just wanted you guys to see, whether you're playing 2 high, you're playing single high, you're playing man free, you're playing zone, Tampa. It doesn't matter, the fronts, we mix up a multitude of fronts. We have a base 2 fronts that we run 99% of the time, but we have a few other fronts that we mix in there to try to mess with offense as well. And I'll explain all that. As we get through this again, if you have any questions on anything we're doing, stop me in my tracks and we'll get it going for you. So
before we jump into, Coach, before we jump into specifics, I just wanted to ask, just watching really quick there, a lot of times when I've seen defenses running this, and this is because this is I asked you, I kind of sent you one of these questions before this conversation.
Yeah.
you know, a lot of the look that you see guys get into is more of like a broken stack look, right?
Yep.
And I noticed that and I don't know if you guys do that, but it looked like that you always, because one of the things that I think has seemed to me anyway to be the Achilles heel of this defense is no overhang, especially on, you know, your weak side. You know, there's no leverage. And so it looks like you guys are, you know, instead of having that broken stack look, you're walking at, you know, whether it be a safety or whatever, up. So you do have, you know, 2 leverage points, 2 hard edges out there. Is that something you're doing all the time, or is that just majority
of the time?
Yeah.
Base football, we're going to have overlap. We're going to have leverage players on both sides.
Yeah.
And so, whereas you can kind of see it right here. So this is just talking the front. So our whole philosophy of the front end, and this is a 4-man front or a 3-man front. It doesn't matter schematics of what personnel grouping you're utilizing. The biggest lesson I've learned is when you're talking about the front 7 and the front 8 or whatever you want to do there, is create a utopia of what you want it to look like. If you can sit there and draw up the best box you could possibly draw up to stop the run, all right, draw that up and then figure out the secondary part next. Do the front first and then make the secondary match that. That way, because for us, we built our structure to where nobody can get us out of having a 7-man box. We're going to have the 3D linemen, the 3 linebackers, and we use that third safety in base football as, if you will, our extra inside backer, like if you were playing a 3-4.
Right.
And so you can kind of see this right here would be our safety. He's basically our extra inside backer. And so that allows us, you know, we have a 7-man box structure. And so regardless of formation that you get into, I'm able to have a leverage player on this side, a leverage player on this side, and then basically 2 inside backers. One's just the safety. And it's the same thing for a 4-3. And we just bump the safeties. We're going to play 2 high, the balance sets, and we'll play a lot of single high to odd sets to make it to where we can keep that box the same. And the thing that does for us is it simplifies our run fits, where our guys have the same run fit all day long.
Yeah.
You know, our outside backers are box players. They're going to box everything. Our inside backers are spill players. And so it's the same fit regardless. So I don't have to sit there and work 100 different techniques on spilling and boxing and doing those things. It's just a carryover for our guys, especially on run downs. Now we can get to more exotic stuff where that box doesn't look like that, but that's going to be more on passing scenarios where we don't need to be +1 in the run box. Well, now we're trying to be +1 in the pass game.
Right.
And so, you know, that's where a lot of guys, you know, I've been in the schemes where you bump the backers and you keep the 2 high safety looks, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel your run fits take a kind of a beating on that, because you're having to teach backers so many different fits, whether they're out of the box player, they're in the box player, they're kicked over. And you might have a will linebacker that plays anywhere from a apex to a 10 technique, having to kick all the way over to the center because you're kicking the linebackers to 3x1 or 2x1.
Right. Yeah.
And so for us, our philosophy is just different. We kick the safeties and keep the box the same.
Yeah. I like it.
But bare front is our base. This is the number 1 front we're going to get into. And I'll kind of talk about, what we do and what a lot of teams will do out of this stuff here. But we base it of 3s with the tackles and ends with a 0 with the nose. And our tackles, they're defensive ends for us. We play a 4-man front. We play with bigger ends in our 4-man front because we do a lot of 2-gapping in our 4-man front. We also do a lot of 2-gapping in our 3-man front. So it's easy for those guys. That's what they do. They do it every day. And so it allows us to build just keep the same technique for those guys. And so all we're doing here is just getting the 2 3s and a 0. Now, you could have 3D linemen that are D tackles. It doesn't make a difference. If you're playing bare, it really doesn't make a difference. If you want to get bigger inside, get bigger inside. But for us, we're going to play a 3, a 0, and a 3. And the reason we do that, and I know a lot of teams run 4 eyes and try and get those guys a little bit wider. For me, playing a 3 technique, it's impossible for me. I think it's impossible to run inside zone versus bare. And so when you're talking about 10 personnel teams, even 11 personnel teams, a lot of times the number 1 run play is the inside zone scheme or read option scheme.
Yeah.
And so for us, it eats that up. So we're able to get our 3 D linemen to eat up those 5 offensive linemen. So it frees up our linebackers in the process. And
I can tell you've coached with Coach Ricky Kuhn talking about their front. He's a a big time bear front guy and has been on the podcast and talked about that and given the same reasoning for why they love their bear front so much and why they base out at threes.
Yeah. So, when we went to this, because I've been a four-man guy my entire career. And so I guess it was about 3 years ago, we ended up going to using this as a sub package. We used to use it a different way. And about 3 years ago, we switched to this and we kind of never looked back. But, he was at Southeast Missouri State and they were a big 3-4 scheme. And, when we were looking at going to this stuff, we were, everyone else you talk to is a 4-eye or 4 and all those things. And we don't work 4-eye technique ever in a 4-man front. It's just not something we work ever. And so, my whole philosophy is if it's something that's going to be, we're going to get into for scenarios, let's make it something that has a lot of carryover from what we already teach our guys.
Yeah.
And so for us, we play shades all the time, whether it's a 5 or 3 or 9 or whatever it may be. Our guys know how to play on the outside perimeter of an offensive lineman. That's not a big deal for those guys. And so for us, it was the easiest way for us to create carryover. And that's the main reason why, if you're a team that runs a 0 and 4 eyes, it's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that at all. We just don't do enough 4-eye technique where if maybe if we were basing on this 100% of the time, maybe we would look at some of that stuff. That's just not something we're doing right now. And so, but it's, there's some coaching points against it. As a 3 technique, teams are going to attack the perimeter on you. They're going to attack those C gaps. The biggest coaching point for our 3 techniques is you cannot get washed because a lot of times those guys can get double teamed. They're going to have the guard on them, and then that tackle is going to try and wash them across the formation. So you got to be able to anchor down and hold that point of attack. We always tell our guys, stalemate's a victory. If we can hold the point, force that ball to bubble, we're going to win that thing.
Yeah.
And so, for us, we're keying the near knee, and we're attacking, and we're going to attack and react off of it. And our nose, everyone kind of coaches that nose tackle a little bit differently. For us, we try not to overcoach that guy. We're telling him the main thing we want with that guy is we want knock back on the center, and then we want you to be a football player from there. We're not going to sit there and worry about whether he plays the play side A gap or back doors in the backside A gap. I tell those guys, I want you guys to be disruptors, and I want you guys to get knocked back on the center and go be a football player. And we're going to make you right at the linebacker level. And so that's the way we play the nose. So we do not overcoach the nose. So I know a lot of people, want to backdoor the center on all the zone schemes, or some people want to try to overfight the center and take this play side A gap. We tell him to get knocked back and be a football player. Whichever side you take, we're going to make you right.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. And that's a big relief for those nose guards. They like hearing that because that's something they all feel like they can do. So.
And it takes pressure off them, especially if you have a guy that's active. Those active nose guards, they give those centers a lot of trouble. Mm. And so that is our base right here. And so I'll go into some video for you guys. And so right here, we're playing bear front. So I'll kind of explain the back end a little bit later as well. But right here, you'll see the 3-man front. And then we're able to sit there and show single high. But actually on the snap, we're going to 2 high. So it's kind of a late movement for us right here. And we do a lot of movement here at Hardin Simmons. We try to mix up what we're looking at. We're going to show single high, play single high. We're going to show 2 high, play 2 high. But then we're also going to switch it up and show single high and on the snap move the 2 high, or vice versa, just to give those quarterbacks a false key of what's going on in the secondary. Maybe it's a way for us to protect the player, or for the offense to think where, if we can dictate to the offense where the weakness of the defense is, and on the snap spin and make that a strength, we have a chance to get tackles for loss. We have a chance to get interceptions. We have a chance just to pick on those offenses a little bit. And so for here, we're able to sit there. We ended up playing squats and halves on the backside, but you can see how, now our double eight, our edge players are the corner to the boundary and our outside linebacker to the field. So we're still sitting there with double overlap players as far as on the perimeter goes. Mm-hmm. And you can see how easy it is for the outside linebackers. He's untouched. He just has to make the tackle. And so we're like everybody else. Everybody's going to RPO. I mean, I don't know if we play a game where we don't see RPO anymore. And so we have to prepare for those things as well. But here's a good example of the three techniques where we're able to eat all 5 guys up, and that ball goes to the perimeter, and we have an unblocked guy making the tackle.
Yeah.
Same thing here. Now, we're playing just a quarter scheme, bear front. Here we're getting dart, so we get this a lot. Teams are going to pull and play dart. So here is the dark scheme. So for us, our inside backer and our safety are spill players, and our outside backer are box players. So it makes it very simple for schematics. In the back end, we're just playing a quarter scheme. So this is, if it's a palms concept. So I'm sure everybody runs some version of palms. That's all it is.
And now,
so
right there, Coach, your safety number 20 walking up. He's acting as your inside linebacker, spill player?
He is our inside backer. He's our spill player. Yep. So
okay.
We teach him the same run fits as if you were an inside backer. Now, ideally, he doesn't always have to get in that position, but sometimes he does.
Yeah.
And so we want him to have an active alignment. So you'll see him, here he started at 10 yards and then walked it up late to get in the box. And so, the biggest thing with that joker player, and guys that get into 3 safety stuff, is make his responsibilities really simple. And so the biggest thing I find from people who are getting into this stuff is, how do you get that guy involved in the run game where you can get him at the line of scrimmage, and how do you get him in the pass game? So for us, our coverage dictates what he's responsible for. So for us, base football in a quarter scheme like this right here, he's a run player first. He's playing run all the way. And if it's not run, then he becomes the free player in the middle of the field to try and take away that post area for that quarterback, to where now we can at least take away some of those inside windows and give those safeties a little bit of assistance on teams that are trying to run, post concepts, big concepts, or anything, vertical inside breaking routes, just to give a deeper player than what a Mike linebacker would be in a 3-4 or 4-3.
Yeah. Is he flat-footing that then?
Yep, he is. Yep, and all he's doing is we just key backfield action. That's how simple it is for us.
Yeah.
For inside backers on Mike, we key triangle like a lot of people probably do, where you're keying through the guards. That's pretty simple there. But for our outside linebackers and for our safety, we key backfield. So we're just cross keying. So all our outside backers are doing is keying the back. When they get action, they're able to pull the trigger and go make those plays at the line of scrimmage. And same thing for our joker. All we tell them is just pace the ball carrier. We try to make things as simple as possible, because again, out of this defense, we like low reps, high productivity. We want something where we don't have to sit there and run it a million times in practice to be able to be efficient in it. Now, we're going to get a lot of reps, but there's some things you might not get as many fits as you might like, but you want to make sure it's something simple enough to where our guys are able to execute. And so right here, you'll see, again, like I said, you get the bare front, and then there's your spill, and there's your box, and you get the RPO stuff covered up with the secondary. And all it is for those safeties is cloudy clear rules. If it's a cloudy read, slow down, pace the ball carrier, let it unfold. If it's a clear read, pull the trigger and go make the tackle. Here we're in yes, sir.
I was just going to ask, watching 20 fit up the run. So how are you splitting up his individual time between, safety stuff and linebacker stuff? How are you cross training him?
Absolutely. So he goes, when we do this stuff, I actually take him with the linebackers for the majority of it. So when we're doing individual and we're doing a run read drill, I make him go with the linebackers, and we set the run read drill up to make sure he's able to be a participant in that. So one thing we do is once a week, I take the safeties once a week, every week for run reads during individual. So, we have a defensive backs coach who's responsible for safeties and corners. So, for us, Tuesday is our first practice. We're working more of our first and second down defensive stuff. And then Wednesday, we're working more of our third down package stuff. And so for what I do is on Tuesdays, I take the safeties and we do run reads on the first 2 periods of individual. And that gives our DBs coach an extra 10 minutes of just with the corners, where he's able to work exclusively with those guys and kind of frees him up for a little bit of time. And also gives me a chance to work with those safeties on run fits and things that we're going to see game plan wise going into that week. So it really gives us a great opportunity there. And, if we're going to run a lot of joker package and if we're going to see a lot of different stuff, we'll do a lot of barrel work as well. We're able to sit there and go fast in formations and make those guys communicate and just understand what they're getting. And so, but his job responsibilities, it's as simple as this. All he has to do is he's the alley player on run. He's just going inside out. He's got quarterback on option. And if pass shows, he's reading the quarterback and playing the middle of the field. That's all he does.
Yeah.
We make it as simple as possible for him, to where he's our bonus guy, if you will. If he messes up for whatever reason and is too aggressive on the run, we're okay in the back end. It's not something we're counting on.
Right.
It's just extra.
Right.
And so that's the way we do that. In our 3-man front, our Mike linebacker's job becomes super simple. All he's doing is spying the quarterback. He's an overlap player on the run. and he's going to sit there and spy the quarterback. And when he has a window to go get the quarterback, he's our add-on, and he's going to go get the quarterback. Because at a bear, I know a lot of guys. I know Coach Kuhn, for example, he tells those guys big gap to bounce on as a rusher those three techniques. For us, we tell those guys affect the quarterback. We're not going to give you contain. So we tell those guys affect the quarterback. You don't have contain. So in a bear front, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that quarterback's going to escape the pocket.
Right.
And so for our Mike linebacker in that look, it's going to be a much slower read to go get that quarterback because those three linemen are going to eat up the middle. So whenever that quarterback does escape the pocket, he's able to go track him down right now and go make the play. And his body position takes away that low hole where when teams are running shallows or check downs, his body position kind of takes those routes away. So here's an example of us playing just a cover 3 concept, the 21 personnel. And we get this a lot too. So now you're going to get here's a load option where they're running an option on the perimeter.
Yeah.
And this is something you're going to see a lot of, especially if you're in 3 techniques. You're going to probably see more option teams. Here's the thing with that. A lot of teams are, a lot of offensive line coaches I've talked to is when you tell them you're going to play bear, they say, I'm going to run speed option. Well, here's the kicker on that. If you're an option team, I will respect your option. If you're not an option team, we don't speed option is not that big of a deal. Because your linemen are going to be bigger offensive linemen. They don't work in the scoop blocks and get the second level. And a lot of times your quarterback's not an option guy either. And so, we don't really worry about those types of teams on option games. We work it, but it's not something that's going to affect us to get us out of bear. Now, If we're playing a true option team and that quarterback's a guy and they're good and, those linemen, that's what they do, we're probably not going to run bear that week. We'll probably run a different front. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But, for us, bear front is by far our number one front out of the 3-man front. And so, and again, allows us to keep the box. Now we're able to get to an 8-man box. And biggest coaching point when you're getting lateral run game, because you're going to get it. That's what we get mainly out of this is, perimeter run game because it's hard to get at the middle. The biggest coaching point when the ball's moving lateral, get your head on a swivel and overall blocks. So everybody in that back end, when we're getting perimeter run game, they're working laterally and we're working over all blocks because if you go under a block, you're going to be out of the play. You might as well be sitting on the sideline because you're not going to be able to make that play. So, I tell those guys, if you ever go under a block, you have to make the play because if you don't, you're out of the play. And so, again, you can see our structure here. There's the bear look. There's our Mike. There's our safety. And then here's our 2 linebackers on the perimeter. And so all we tell those guys, here's as easy as it is. If it's 2 back, we line up on the line of scrimmage. If it's 1 back, we line up 5 yards deep. That's as simple as it gets. Or if I have we treat a tight end as 2 back. So if it's tight end or H back, that's 2 back for us. So we're gonna be on the line of scrimmage with our outside backers, and that's as simple as it gets for those guys. Their pass responsibility, nothing changed for them. They're doing the same stuff they've done forever. All they're doing is they're just carrying the box. He has the first thing out of the side of the box in this way, all right, and he has the first thing outside the box in this way. So if a back came out of the backfield, he'd cover him. That's about as simple as it gets for those linebackers, and they're pretty much doing the same responsibility in majority of the coverages that we do. So again, just trying to keep the box simple. Here and again, we're getting option and they try to reach our 3 technique and they kind of get them right there and he kind of works back to it late. But everybody else is going to be overall blocks. So you see our guys get over the top of those blocks and forcing that ball to go to the sideline and using our speed and our pursuit and effort to our advantage. All right, the next front that we run, besides bear front, is our head front. Head front for us is going to be head up 4s. So we're going to be 4s and a 0. Now we're a 2-gap team out of our 4-man front, and so out of this right here, we run the exact same technique with those guys. So we're 2-gapping from a head up 4, and so we we have bigger. Those are both defensive ends right there in that picture at the outside spots, and so what we're doing with those ends is if I get a down block by that tackle, we're doing the same thing every other team in the country is doing. They're going to squeeze the down block and play everything inside out and be a skill player, just like everybody else would. Where we're different is if we're getting a base block by those tackles, we're far enough. We're telling them we're going to go vertical through the crotch of the tackle, and we're going to peek to B gap on base blocks. And so we want to, again, push that ball to the perimeter to the C gap. So we want to play on the inside portion of that body on the inside zone scheme. And if we get a reach block by those tackles, we're vertical through the B gap. We don't care about the tackle at all.
Yeah.
We're going to set the defense right now in the B gap.
We do the exact same thing minus how we play base blocks. And I had never done it before until I got here at Pleasant Grove, and I love it because kind of like what you're talking about with the nose earlier about it takes a lot of pressure off of him. When you're playing a four, we call it a flex. Now there's no more threat of getting reached.
No.
Just come off and attack the man in front of you. If he's reaching you, fall behind it. Just don't get reached by the guard.
That's it.
If he's down blocked, then we're what we'd say punch, and we're punching and surfing down the line of scrimmage. So I love that. I love playing fours, and I like how you play base. You know how you play base blocks. We're not there yet. Don't want to switch too many things up with our linebackers and their fits, but that's definitely something I like as well.
So for our outside linebackers, I'm telling them everything's C-gap for you. If you're an outside linebacker, your fit is a C-gap.
Yeah.
And so, that's the same of a four-man front. We went, I guess it was 3 or 4 years ago, we went up to Northwest Missouri State. If you guys ever have a chance to go visit with Coach Wright and his staff, man, they are unbelievable. And it's they've been uncanny on defense for forever up there. And they're a 4-3 defense as well. But that's where we got the two-gap scheme from. That's where we got it from. And so we went up there and visited with those guys. And, we've done it ever since. And it's been a game changer for us because, we used to be a team where we used to say don't get reached. And you'd sit there and see outside zone schemes and you're running to the sideline. And, hey, coach, I didn't get reached, but you're on the tick marks on the sideline.
Yeah.
And the ball cuts back 20 yards before you're there. So it's been a game changer for us. And I don't know if I'd ever go back, but we do the same thing on four-man front. We're just going to two-gap those ends. So whether we're head-up fours or we're in a 5 technique, it's still a two-gap technique for those guys.
Yep.
And for the nose, it's nothing different. Now, we don't – and, again, the secondary dictates the run fit. So we'll talk about coverages here in a minute after we get on fronts, and I'll explain kind of how we do those things there. So right here, you can see right here, we're in a head front here. So we're in 4s and a 0. We're playing a cover 3 concept. Our cover 3 is a match cover 3. So we're going to match all the concepts as far as what we see there. But here you see us getting a base block with that tackle on the end on the right side. And you see us firing off and where you attack the inside portion. And now he's able to throw that guy off and go make the tackle.
Yeah.
And so you can see how we make a lot of plays with our ends running this two-gap scheme just because, for us, it forces those tackles to be they have to be physical, and they have to win the one-on-one. And it's hard to protect tackles. And offensive line is the hardest place to recruit to, and that's the hardest place to find. It doesn't matter if you're high school, middle school, college, NFL, those linemen are hard to get. And so when we can put those guys on an island, and we like to be big, so, we're going to have bigger bodies that are athletic out there. Our philosophy kind of, I guess about 4 years ago kind of went from, we used to be more of a speed kill thing up front, and we'd have ladder linemen to where now it's kind of, it's hard to beat big men. It's hard to move them. And so we like big bodies because we can be physical at the point of attack, and we can kind of control those linemen. So you see right there, we're getting a base block. He's able to come off the inside and be a fit on the run. So now teams can't get that true one-on-one that they want with those guys. Here we're able to play a Tampa concept but still play 4s. And, right there, we're able to just get penetration with our nose and make this play here. You see it better from the end zone. But here we're at 4s and a 0, and here we end up shading him based on a call where we can shade that guy. But all we're doing is firing off. All that nose is doing. That's actually a defensive end playing the nose. So, it's a passing scenario. At the end of the game, we put 3 defensive ends on the game. And it's the same stuff. Yeah. For those guys. And so it allows those guys to be really aggressive to be able to do the things you want to do. And that just goes to being multiple. It doesn't matter, as long as the how is very simple, you can do more stuff with those guys. Same thing there. Here we're getting a down block. When we work a down block, we're not going to take a 1-for-1. That's just not who we are. Right. We're going to work to the inside half of the man and use our hands and get vertical. And so we want to try and always get a 2-for-1. We want the end to be a factor in the play still rather than being done. So when we get a down block, we squeeze, work to the inside half of the man, and work vertical. And that's all he's trying to do right there. And then for the backers, you'll see the outside backer is a box player, the inside backer is a spill player, and then there's the fit. And so our Mike backer spills a little bit late, but he gets inside leverage at the end. And then that's as simple as the scheme gets for us. Here we're playing head front again, and here we're playing the squats and halves concept, playing cover 2 to the boundary. And so now you see the corner has to show up as the force player. So now, there's your extra overhang. And he's going to be and our cover 2 is a trap cover 2. We don't have a cover 2 scheme in our playbook where we're going to get hands on one and ride the guy from outside leverage. We just don't. It's just not our philosophy of what we want with those guys. So for us, whether we're playing Tampa or just squats and halves, we're going to be a trap technique for those guys where they're heavily involved in the run game. And so for us, when we're getting that run action, you see our corners, we want them making plays or at least showing up in the backfield. For this right here.
So, okay, this is the scenario that I was asking you about, again, kind of our pre-interview that you see that can, it's kind of a fair way for offenses to attack this set right here is to check to, quarterback run game to that weak side, whether it be like, just a quarterback lead with the running back going, or even like you said, even an option. So I guess, when you're playing your trap coverage and you're sending that corner in there, how do you get that corner to buy into that? Because that's usually not their, not what you're asking them to do. And it's one thing having a safety come up and fit the run, but now you have a corner going and being your force player. How do you train that kid to do that? And what does he?
So here's how easy the run fit is, because he's still a pass defender too. And so all he's doing is he's keying backfield action. So he does the same run fit that our outside linebackers utilize when they're lined up off number 2. So our vision keys, we teach the same vision keys for outside linebackers as a corner who's a force player, a safety who's a force player. Anytime we have a defender who's going to be edge setter, we use the same visual key every time. So all he's doing, he's cross keying the back. And his rules are, if you get any action in the backfield, you're gone, 100 miles an hour. You got to be able to show up. You can't get blocked by one. You got to fit inside of him and work vertical, and you got to attack the mesh right now. If you don't get run action by him, now we're playing squats and halves, and now you're the flat player, and you're able to sink off and be underneath the number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
And so for everything for him, so same thing here, especially in camp, where I take the safeties once a week and work run fits. In camp, I take those corners once a week, and we work with the same run fits, but now we're working with those guys, having to work vision keys and having to be able to pull the trigger and do those things as well. And so our cover 2, our corners love our cover 2 stuff because it's like a playoff for those guys, especially in the pass game. You don't have to sit there and run with verticals all day long. You're able to kind of be a free player. It's kind of like playing backyard football, if you will, where, those guys are going to be heavily involved in a lot of plays, whether it's run or pass.
Yeah.
And for us, he's not a run player if there's 2 skill to this side. So like right here, there's only one skill to this side. So he's a run player here.
Right.
If they'd have put another receiver over here, he wouldn't have been this aggressive.
Right.
So his eyes are just on the mesh. Once he gets mesh, he's gone. That's as simple as it is. Now he's just an outside-in tackler. So now when we're playing cover 2 stuff, we kick the backers in and get to a 3-2 box, and that's just how we play our cover 2 stuff to be able to keep the box the same. So now both inside backers are spill players, and now the corner and the outside backer to the strong side are the box players. All right, and that's our head front, and the next front we'll talk about is our dime front. This is going to be more for passing scenarios. This is not a front that we're going to jump into if we think it's going to be run. It's just not sound. It's not sound versus the run. We're not going to be +1 on any scenario. You have 2 huge gaps and the big gaps that are open. And, we can cancel those with the line stunts, but for us, if we're getting into a 5 and a 0, it's going to be a passing scenario all the way. And so here, as a 5 technique for us, we're telling those defensive ends, we're going to stop the run on the way to the quarterback. So we're telling those guys, if we're calling this front because we're trying to attack the quarterback in the passing game. And that's all it is right there. So if you're playing 5s and a 0 and you're struggling to stop the run, don't play 5s and a 0.
Yeah.
It's hard to stop the run. So here's an example. It's 3rd down to 15 in this look. We're playing a 5s and a 0. We're playing Tampa behind it. So we're able to play a squats and halves concept, but now we're able to take away the middle of the field. And now we're able to still be option sound. 3rd and 15, most teams are going to throw the ball. If they run the ball, it's a give up down. And we just got to make sure that we're sound in the run fits to where, if it's 3rd and 15 and they got 5 yards running the ball, we're okay. That's 4th and 10. We're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But that's a scenario where this is a run play when they're running option and we're still option sound. But that's, we're not calling that defense to stop the run.
Right.
Our guys are, they're able to react and do those things. But this is all obviously the same thing here, playing Tampa again. And so we play a lot of Tampa. Tampa, to me, I think whether you're a high school or college, I think Tampa is one of the biggest answers to the air raid and 10 personnel offense, if you will. If you're a 10 personnel team, Tampa is a killer. And it really, and a lot of people say they have answers, but it's a quarterback clue coverage. Everything's based on him. And so you're able to cover a lot of zones. And for us, if we're playing teams that have better skill than our skill, we're going to play a lot more Tampa. And we're going to force your quarterback to be the guy. And a lot of times, we're going to get a lot of interceptions, and we're going to make a lot of plays on it. And so, I don't know how many guys run Tampa, but I would definitely highly suggest, if it's not something you're utilizing, I would talk to some folks and have it part of your package, because it is such a relief for your corners. It's such an easy coverage to put in. It's probably the easiest coverage that we run of any coverage that we run. And your secondary players are going to love it. It's every time we run Tampa, they feel like there's a chance they're going to get an interception. And those corners especially, they're able to be ultra aggressive.
Walk us through really quick, Coach, just the responsibilities of those guys, of those secondary guys in your Tampa stuff, especially your safeties.
Okay. So we play our safeties 15 yards deep in our Tampa stuff. And the reason we say 15, here's the thing that a lot of coaches get tied into. Have an identity and have an idea of what you want out of your players. And what I mean by that is you'll see a lot of players or a lot of programs where you're playing cover 2, and they have those safeties anywhere from 10 to 12 yards. And they're asking those safeties, hey, we want you to be part of the run game and the pass game. And for us, we just don't think we can do that. So for us, if we're playing a cover 2 concept, the whole key of cover 2 is to take away the deep path. We want offenses to know that we're a deep path defender. We want to give they're a pass player 100% of the way. And so we want those guys to go cover ground. And so by playing them deep, we're able to cover a lot more ground with those guys and play that deep path technique. And so, they're not a run fit player whatsoever. If they're making a play in the run game, that means we really messed up in the front 6. And so for our corners, we play them inside leverage of 1. So we play 7 yards off of 1, and they're a trap corner. And so like right here, they have 2 skill to their sides on both sides. They're not playing the run.
Right.
Their run fit is going to be a bubble. That's their run fit. If we got a bubble by 2, that's their run action. And so they're a true flat player, and everything for them is keying off the quarterback. It's everything for us is 3-step to 5-step. And if we get 3-step by the quarterback, all rules are off. Go be a football player. So, if we get quarterback sets the speed immediately and we're getting bubble, go get it right now. You're not wrong. And so we tell those corners, it's like backyard football. You're never wrong. We always have you over the top. You can be as aggressive as need be. And so on 3-step, we're aggressive. For our outside linebackers, so we have a will linebacker right here and we have our strong right here. They're just curl players. So all they're doing is reading the quarterback and they're just holding a curl. And so for us, we always know who's at fault on routes. So like if they threw a vertical route by 1 and they hit a hole shot on it, all right, well, they threw a fastball to number 1. It's on the corner. My corner didn't sink. It didn't get in the window. We know whose fault it is. If they put air underneath that ball and he lofts it down the field, it's on the safety. We know exactly who the ball's on. It's the same thing on the inside. If we're getting a vertical seam by number 2 and he throws a fastball to that number 2 receiver, it's on the outside linebacker all day long, 100% of the time. If he has to put air underneath it, now it's going to be on our middle of the field safety. And so, or a high safety. So, that's how we're coaching that. So everything's based on that quarterback's drop. So if he's getting depth playing 5-step, you're going to see our guys get depth as well and sync off all across the board. They're all using the same technique right here. So our corners and backers are doing the exact same thing as far as technique goes. We do the same drill. For the corners and the backers, it's the same drill that we use those guys on. It's all quarterback based. It's a high to low coverage. Unless it's 3-step. If it's 3-step, we're taking away everything because I'm telling those backers, if they catch a hitch or a slant, it's on you. It's 100% of the day, it's on you. They can't throw a hitch or slant. Excuse me.
And so 3-step, that outside backer on 3-step, he's now number 2.
He's driving the throw right now. I
Yeah.
tell him, make the quarterback throw it through you or over you.
Yeah.
And so if he throws it through you, it's an interception. If he throws it over you, it gives the defender behind you a chance to make a play on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then our middle field player, he's playing vertical 2-2. So he's the middle field. He's keying up the quarterback. And if you were to get two vertical threats right here, he's going to go wherever the quarterback's vision point goes. So if the vision was to go here, he's hash to hash player. So this is his world right here. The moment one of those number 2 receivers is not vertical, so let's say you just got a shallow route right there. Now he just has to find the vertical route by the number 2 receiver on this side. So if you're getting a dig concept right there, he's able to sit on the dig and drive it. Because we have a curl player sitting right here and we have a curl player sitting right here, but now we're able to drive that as well. Whereas if this guy were to go vertical, then he would cover that route all the way vertical as well. And so Tampa, that's kind of our go-to. If we're going to see 10 personnel teams that if you're a 10 personnel team and you're a team whose identity is to throw the football, which through breakdowns. If you're doing your scouting report and you're going through the numbers and you're sitting there looking at, hey, and if it's 2x2 and it's 10 personnel and it's we're looking at 60% pass. Well, anything over 60% for us, we consider that a high tendency. So if we're seeing a lot of 60 and 70% tendencies on pass, we have no issue playing Tampa all the time to those things. If you're 50-50 and you're going to run the ball a lot more, we might not play as much Tampa. We might mix in a lot more quarters or cover one or different things to try to get more guys involved in the run, especially that joker play. Our joker player is a pass player first in Tampa. In Tampa, we're +1 in the pass game, and we're kind of playing zero count football in the run game, if you will. But we're still playing, here's my box player over here, and here's my box player over here. So when that ball goes to the perimeter, he should make the play inside the number 2 receiver. If he goes outside of him, now our corner should make the tackle. If he got cracked and it goes outside of him, now that's where the safety secondary contained. And so that's kind of how we play Tampa. So you'll see some clips on here. And I've done clinics where we did clinics just on Tampa. But you can kind of see how we're able to take away all those threats. So you can kind of see how everything's based on the quarterback. And so you can sit there and go, well, hey, he's open and he's open and he's open. But the problem is that quarterback's not looking at them. He's getting depth and he's trying to find his deeper routes. And so for us, everything is high to low. Now, when his vision point goes to a route, you'll see these guys start driving those guys. And so that's how. So, for us, throw this late to the flat, we'll rally, make that tackle.
Yep.
We're okay with that. If you throw it quick to the flat, we're going to get a tackle for loss. And so now, this is a 3rd down and 10. We're able to play dime. We're playing 2 5s. And again, you see our defensive end take the inside step right there, and he's able to make the sack on the quarterback. So one thing we do with our ends is our ends do not have contain. And unless we have a tag for it if we want those guys to contain rush, but they're not contained, or unless game plan says otherwise. So if we tell those ends, if you're getting an overset by that tackle, you can go inside, you can take the inside move. Now, we tell those guys, if you take the inside move, the coaching point is you have to press vertical immediately. Right. And so you'll see right here to the boundary, you can't make it look like a stunt and get washed across the field. So once you get that, you work vertical, and we want to affect the quarterback and get him off his point. So even if he escaped us and got outside the perimeter, our Mike linebacker is still a spy player. So we still have somebody responsible for the quarterback in the second level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, look, someone's getting an earful going over to the sideline there for Sol Ross getting sacked with a 3-man pressure. So
it's amazing how many sacks you get out of a 3-man pressure. That's what's even more insane. But here's an example of us playing single high, and again, it's a 3rd down and a long call, and we're again showing pressure, and then on the snap, we're backing out of it. And so this was a game plan thing. So you see our defensive end pill right here. Yeah. This isn't something we do on a regular basis. This was a game plan deal where their top play on 3rd down and long was to just throw the flare to the running back and block on the perimeter and see what they can get. And so our game plan was, if we called dime was an automatic pill front for us, meaning if we got fast by the back that week, it was an automatic, we're going to take the flare. And if he's throwing it, we're taking it. Now, we don't have a man-to-man, but we're going to take away the quick throw. And so, game plan wise, we knew that was the thing. So that was the thing we game planned in that week. And so again, now the play's ruined, and now the quarterback has to pick it up, and Mike linebacker's the spy, and there's your sack. And so that's about as simple as it gets right there. Again, showing pressure, able to back out of it, and now able to get to where we need to get to. And again, offenses do the best job of it. They're smoke and mirror. And offenses nowadays, they're going to motion, they're going to fly sweep, they're going to orbit, they're going to, motion the H-back and bring him back across. So all we're trying to do is we're trying to do the exact same thing on defense. We want to sit there and be able to do the same thing. We want to be able to line up the different looks and on the snap move the different looks. And so that's the whole key of everything we're trying to accomplish is really the same thing offenses are trying to do to us for the last however many years.
Yeah, right. We're dictating to the offense as opposed to the other way around, which is what it has been for a long time.
And if you watch film on us and you're an offensive coordinator, it probably doesn't take you very long to figure out that, hey, they're moving, they're going from too high to single high. But here's the deal, it's not – I'm not trying to beat that 40-year-old offensive coordinator that's in the press box that watches film all week. I just have to be able to play games with an 18 to 22-year-old kid playing quarterback who maybe has limited experience, maybe has a lot of experience, but still – he's the guy that has to make those decisions. And so if we can affect that guy, we feel like we have a chance to make a lot of plays.
No doubt.
And so now we'll kind of get in the coverage concept of it. Is there any questions on the three fronts I showed you right there? We have some other fronts that we call it a pirate front, where we play a 3, a 0, and a 5. I know a lot of teams will run that as well. We like to put the 3 technique to the running back side and put the 5 technique away from the running back side. That's something we do on the as a change up. It's not something we do a ton of, but it is a change up front. And then on third down and the long calls, you can get into whatever exotic calls you want to get into with your fronts. We've done all sorts of stuff with those guys where if you want to put them all on one side, we had it to where we put a 3, we had 2 3s and a 5, and then made the linebackers be the false keys on the other linemen, just to try to change up the looks for the pass protection. So. And the big thing with defensive line play and really coordinator play, that is the one thing we do every week is we're going to break down offenses, pass protection, and huddle. And so that's one thing we do every week. So, for us, 50 is 5-man protection with the back free releasing to the left. 51 is 5-man protection with the back free releasing to the right. And the same thing, it's 60 or 61. 60 is going to be 6-man protection with the running back. Now he's to the left side. If it's 61, the back's to the right side. So we have a number system for pass protections of how we're able to label it and huddle and do those things. So, the biggest thing we're looking for when we're doing those breakdowns of pass protections and creating a game plan for our pass rush, we're looking for how many times do offenses change up the protections. And what I mean by that is how, most offenses are going to do the same stuff. They're going to half slide, half man. They're going to go big on big. They can go full slide. It's all the same. No one's recreating the will and pass protection. But what we're looking for is, can we get a beat on where the man side is? And so for us, common sense football, the running back's a very simple key a lot of the times on where the man side is. A lot of times he's the man side and away from his zone side. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to see how many times do they switch the running back. How often do they take him from one side and then put him on the other? And so that's the biggest thing we're looking for. So when we're tagging it and we're sitting there saying, hey, it's 61 flash. Flash means it was 61 protection. So the back ended up on the right-hand side, but flash means it started on the opposite side. So that tells us some protection. So we're doing a breakdown. You're sitting there going, hey, it's 10 personnel, 2 by 2. They say they threw the ball 20 times. And twice they ran flash protection where they flashed the back over. Okay, well, odds are pretty good in my favor that if I want to bring a pressure or a line movement or any of those things, I can attack the running back, and 99% of the time I'm going to be right. Yeah. And so that gives us an easy way. Now, some offenses are getting better. They're hipping the back before the snap. They're flashing them after the snap. And when offenses do those, it's harder on the defenses. Now you can't attack the running back as much. Now you're doing more field and boundary or left and right, or tight end or no tight end, and trying to find other ways to try to get an advantage. But that's an easy, simple way. And especially with no huddle offenses that are up tempo, they're usually the easiest offenses to find protections on, because usually they're trying to go so fast, they just get lined up. So usually you can find a good tip for those running backs versus those type of offenses. So that's a simple tip to try to look for. I'm sure most people already do it, but that's just how we try to do our pass rush, because we'll create a game plan every week of how we want to get our D-line attacking the front and also going into our stunt and pressure packages as well.
No, that's a great little just nugget there, because I know that and I mentioned this a few episodes ago when we were talking about this same topic of breaking down offensive lines pass protection. myself just needing a system, and the coach that I was talking to had a very similar system to what you're talking about. And I think that makes it so much easier. And you can say that, and now the kids and everybody, all the coaches know what's going on, and then you now know how to attack it specifically, and you can pick up on those little tells and tendencies, especially
Correct.
from the back.
That's it. That's all it is right there. And so that's how we attack protection. So that's pretty much all we're doing there. So it's not something that's a huge deal, but it's something where, I think it's important to break down protection, because a lot of people say, hey, we'll just watch it. The problem is when I run the stats, I know exactly how many times they flash fake and how many times they don't, or how many times they hit the back at the snap before the snap and move them sides. And you can pick up a lot of tells, and you'll have some teams that's 100% tendency. I mean, it's just every single time, no matter what, you're going to get what you want. And so those are ways where if you're just watching it and not putting it in the data, sometimes that can get overlooked. And sometimes it's scenario based. Sometimes they only flash them on third downs on long, because that's when the offensive coordinator is thinking about it.
Right.
And so it's there and find those tips out as well.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll move to the coverage portion of this. Is there any more? Do you have more questions for front end play with the defensive line?
No, I think that's it. I think I got it. Just understanding, how you guys are. I really like the 4 stuff, and love obviously the 3 technique stuff out of your what was that? Your bear front. And like I said, like the four stuff out of your head front. So I think that's all really great stuff.
Perfect. So coverage wise, so this is our base coverage, and I'm sure everybody, whatever coverage you do is fine. We're going to play a check system is what we do. So we call it, it's just a check defense. And so all we're doing is, if we're playing base football, we're checking coverage based on looks. And so our safeties are the quarterbacks of the defense. They're in charge of the defense. We've gone through all the prep with those guys, and so they're making the calls in the back end. So they have a few calls that they can utilize that's inside our world of packages to get us in the best coverage possibility that we can be in. So for us, we're putting a quarter scheme here, and we play quarters a few different ways. We have a few ways of playing quarters. We have a palms concept where everyone's going to have some sort of palms concept where our corner is responsible for the out route at 2. And our safeties read 2 to 1 as well. So if 2 is out, safety finds 1, and doing those things. And then we also have a lock concept where we lock it up, where the corner has number 1 vertical, and our safety is responsible for the vertical and out of number 2. So now it's becoming more of a man concept in the back end as well. For our outside linebackers, they're doing the same job in all of our quarter schemes. They're going to be curl players. They're curl flat players, but they're going to hold the curl until something takes them to the flat. And the only thing that's going to take them to the flat will be a back out of the backfield or a shallow coming across the formation. That's it. Other than that, they're going to hold the curl. That makes it as simple as possible for those guys. And our Mike linebackers playing the quarterback, and our joker players playing the middle of the field. And that's as simple as our quarter scheme gets. So for us, less is more. We don't want to complicate things. We want to make things as easy as possible for those guys in the back. And, we simplified our palms concept. We know we don't do the palms concept like, a lot of teams are going to read. If you get a quick out by 2, corner drives it, safety drives 1. But if it's a 5-yard out by 2, the corner stays on 1 and the backer takes it. We used to do that, and we had some teams that would take advantage of those rules. And you'll find where teams are no longer making simple reads by the number 2. Now is it a breaking at 3 yards? Is it breaking at 4 yards? Is it climbing to 5 yards? So, where's that gray area at? So for us, we just took the gray out of it. Our corner has the first out route. Our safety has the first deep end. And that's as simple as it gets. We no longer have to work 2-to-1 reads anymore because we simplified it. We don't have to sit there and sit there and work we work concepts. We don't have to sit there and work half-line scale with those guys all day long like we used to because we had to work that gray area so often. And if we're playing a lock concept, it's almost a man scheme anyway. So,
right.
You don't need to work any half-line scale there. It's just off man, if you would. And so those are the base ways we play quarters. We have a few other ways that we play as well, but those are going to be more game plan type scenarios for us. And so that's so our safeties have the option of which coverage they're going to call as far as which version of quarters. And so usually we go in a game with 2 or 3 versions of quarters. And it's going to be based off looks. It's going to be based off splits, and it's going to be based off tendencies. And so that's kind of how we put it in those guys' hands. And it's my job for the course of the week to coach those guys up on what is the best fit in each scenario. But at the end of the day, they're going to live with the calls that they make.
Yeah.
And so here you go. So right here, we're playing, this is a 1st and 10. So you see here, we're playing a 2-high shell, playing a quarter scheme. So we're getting to you're getting to a 3-4 defense using the extra safety. And on this side over here, all right, they're playing a palms concept. So they're letting everything unfold. On this side up here, they're playing more of a lock concept. So you'll see how on one play, we're playing 2 different concepts on 2 different sides. And so you'll see right here how simple it is. Where to the boundary here, we're kind of getting the same route concept to both sides. But on one side, you see how we let it unfold, and we're able to play the route. And on the other side, we're driving the routes because it's more of a man scheme of quarters. And a lot of it's based off personnel. I mean, if you look at this concept over here, that's a tight end right here, playing number 2 receiver. All right, well, a tight end versus a safety is a pretty easy matchup for us. That's not something that we have a lot of fear about. Whereas down here, we got 2 skill down here. 2 receivers, they can go, they're going to be able to run a little faster. So, there we're playing a lock concept on one side, and we're playing a zone concept the other, and we're able to take those windows away. And that gives us an opportunity to be able to make the play on the quarterback or, here, make the play on the receivers. So, biggest coaching point here is because this happens at every level. I don't know how many times you see on film where a quarterback scrambles or breaks the pocket, and then somebody in the back end pulls the quarterback up and dumps it over the top for a huge play down the field. We have what we call plaster rules in the back end. So our secondary knows that whenever we get a quarterback who's scrambling, our job is to block the nearest man up and play man-to-man coverage wherever he goes on the field. And so if I'm a corner or a safety, I'm never going to pull the quarterback up. If I'm a linebacker, if I have no work, I can go pull the quarterback up. But if I'm covering a running back, I got to cover the running back. And so right there, you see how the linebackers are driving 3-step. Right there, they're trying to hit the slant route by number 1 or curl route by number 1. So you see the linebackers trying to get in that window, and now all of a sudden, he breaks contain because we're not going to have contain with the 3 technique, and we get the pressure with their outside linebacker in this look. So here's Bear.
Now, right there, did you bumped him out to a 4? So
yeah, so we actually went. This is actually our pirate front. This is a
okay,
Bear. So
okay.
this is actually pirate. So it started off as Bear, and then we went to pirate.
Okay.
And also things you can do as well. If you have lighter guys and you're kind of worried about playing 3 technique, we have move calls as well with those guys. We can line those guys up in 5s and send them to the big gaps to start to get the bear as well.
Right.
Just to try to make it to where those guys aren't always getting those tackles beaten down on them. Same thing here. We're playing bear. We're playing quarters again. Here we're playing a zone concept on both sides. So here you see on both sides more of a palms concept. So we're getting the screen. Corners responsible for screen. Our safeties have screen and go. And you see the joker player, number 33, playing the joker. So he's sitting there playing the hole. And that's as easy as a job as it gets. And, the biggest thing for that extra safety, we like to find guys that are pretty smart football players. We prefer to have smarter players there just because it's going to be a low rep, high productivity defense. So if you have somebody who's kind of the guy who's a see ball, get ball, we usually try not to put him in that position just because that guy probably needs a lot of reps to be able to operate that. So we've had 4 or 5 guys that can operate that position. It's not that hard. It's easier if you have a guy that's a low maintenance type guy on the field.
And he's still reading the quarterback here.
Reading the quarterback. Yep. I start the quarterback. He's looking for the backfield for a run action. And so right here, same thing. Here we're getting a team where they're running acting like they're running quarterback power or counter, and then off of that they're trying to run out routes by the number 2 receiver. And they're not supposed to block with the ball being thrown on a 5-yard out route, but offense to kind of get to do whatever they want to do these
That's
days.
right.
But,
yeah. We could have devote a whole episode to just talking about that.
So, but I mean, all we're doing still is playing a palms concept to that side. And so here we're playing a head front. So we're playing 2 4s. in a zero. We have two linebackers with the linebacker and the joker playing the front. You can see how there's a joker player playing run. And again, he's just pacing it. Just pace the ball carrier. And so for us, it's a simple scheme. And then right here we're going to a cover 3 scheme. So we're getting a 2-back team. We want to be able to play a strong box. We don't want that box to be tampered with by having to kick backers. So we rotate the secondary. So we're playing a cover 3 concept here. So corners are playing thirds. Now our cover 3 is not a traditional. We're not a spot drop cover 3 team. We're not going to sit there, and it's more of a. If you watch the Nick Saban Rip Les match stuff where it's going to turn into cover 1 versus vertical routes, but it's cover 3 versus under routes. That's what we're doing out of this. So that way, again, we want to be able to match vertical routes if we're getting vertical routes. We don't want to have those guys where they're going to hit a huge seam down the middle of the field because if you're an offensive coordinator, say, hey, they're playing cover 3, their answer is, hey, let's go for a vert. Let's hit the inside seams. And so for us, that's just man coverage for us. So here you see us rotating. We're playing cover 3. And the box is the same. We're able to maintain a perimeter edge on both outside linebackers, and then we gain the Mike and the Joker as the inside backers. And we're able to, right here, put that safety 15 yards deep in the middle of the field. And this has been a huge advantage for us. A lot of times you have guys that are, are you a single high guy? Are you two high guy? Man, I'm an everything guy as far as that goes. You got to be able to do both. I'm a huge believer in that because if you're just a too high guy and you're going to play quarters all day long, man, if you're a quarters team, the first thing that those guys are going to ask you is, how do you stop the post? How do you stop the post? Because you're going to be, if you're playing quarters, you're an open field defense in the middle of the field. The middle field's open. So everybody's going to attack the middle of the field. They're going to run dig post versus you. They're going to run corner post versus you. They're going to find every way to try to isolate your defender in the middle of the field. And so for us, by mixing in and playing single high as well, we're able to take away that middle of the field. Where now, if you're an offense, you're going to throw the ball to the perimeter. You're going to throw the ball to the sideline, to the number 1 receiver. And that's where we want the ball going anyways. And, you watched enough film today where you see a lot of movement where we're showing too high, going to single high or vice versa, to where when the offense goes up there, we don't want them ever knowing, is the middle field truly open or is the middle field truly closed with those safeties, just so we can create that little bit of doubt in that quarterback to where we can try to hide the weaknesses of the defense. Because, every defense is going to have a strength and a weakness. We understand that. Right. We coach that. And so for us, it's smoke and mirrors of trying to hide the weaknesses. It's trying to hide the one-on-ones and, try to be strong where you're strong at. And so here you'll see it's a passing down right here. And you'll see where we're getting vertical routes. And you push pause, and you're saying, you have corner on one. You got an outside linebacker carrying the back over here, or tight end. You got a linebacker carrying the running back or tight end to this side. The safety staying on 2, the corner staying on 1, and then our joker players finding work. So he's able to take away that understandable route over Mike route concept right there, and now we're able to sit there and have every concept covered up. And so now the Mike linebacker, here's a good example of us where the Mike linebackers are add-on. All right, and now he sees a window and he goes attacks the quarterback, and you see him make the defensive end right. The defensive end took an inside move late, so our outside linebacker adjusts. And that's as simple as it is for those guys. So you see the Mike sees the gap, he pulls the trigger, the end goes inside, and we make them right. That's all we're doing in the back end. We're going to make the D lineman right. Same thing here. So here's your wide splits, your Baylor splits, if you will, where everything's really, really wide.
Yeah.
We're still playing a cover 3 concept here, trying to play a strong box. And again, you can see how everything works out. We're able to get a lot of overlap, force the ball to go to the perimeter, and then use our speed to make the tackle. And at the same time, the middle of the field's protected. So if you look at throws, if you're playing offense here, this is probably where you're attacking on offense. This is probably, for us, we're going to put our best corners over here because that's going to be our one-on-one matchups that we have to win. And if we need to hide this matchup, then we would show too high and spin the single high. That's easy ways to be able to hide those. But, here's the one-on-one. But if it's a one-on-one, it's going to be a one-on-one on a fade or a hitch or a slant, and that's really what he's going to be able to worry about.
Now, right there, I'm sure they're in that formation trying to get your guys, trying to outnumber you on your edge here, get that safety split out wide to match that, the double set up top. So
Yep.
do you normally want that guy? I mean, would you rather him be closer to the hash right there, or is that where you want him?
Well, we played him there just because they were running a lot of spot screen over here.
Okay.
So, a lot of teams are going to do this stuff here, and they're going to try and get that space. So we want him in a position where he can drive the screen.
I got you.
And so his job, he's going to be, for him, the ball should never get to him. He's an extra hat, but, here they have a guy that can block him as well, right?
Yeah.
So for us, we have a 7-man box. We feel like we have enough guys in the box in this look right here to be able to stop any run that we have coming this way. And so, if he makes a play, it's because the ball went all the way out laterally for him to make that play. Yeah. But, common sense rules tells him to play inside leverage. So his normal alignment is going to be outside leverage of 2. We have common sense rules that we build into all of our defenses. And a common sense rule for us is if the offense gets wide, we get tight. If the offense gets tight, we get wide. And so as he gets wider, he could scoot in a couple more steps if he wanted, but he's got to be in an inside position because everything they do will be attacking inside.
Yeah.
And so you see run fits right here. They're just running a power scheme. So that's all we're doing is squeezing down and playing power. So our outside backer is still a box player. So you see our outside backer over here. The H-back comes. He boxes the H. All right, and then he's going to stretch it out. And then our joker player is over the top of the block, and we're there. So there's the fit. And then right there, we're playing threes. And our 3 technique got skinny and was able to, the tackle didn't get down on him, so we're able to gain an extra hat with the 3 technique, but you're still gaining the mic on the backside as well. So our mic backer is pacing the ball carrier as well. So right here, we're playing a single high. So here's an example where we're showing 2 high over here. So you see the safety showing like we're playing the squats and halves, protecting this matchup. And then on the snap, he's rotating in the middle of the field. So again, try to find ways where you can hide matchups right there. We're still playing the same box. So the big thing out of this presentation, hopefully you get is, for run fit purpose, our box stays the same, whether it's 10 personnel or 11 personnel or 12 personnel. That you're not going to be able to get us out of the same fit that we're always going to be able to work. So for our guys, it's just we're able to get so many reps out of it. It's just second nature for our guys to run fits, where it's not something they have to think about. It's not something that we have to really worry about misfitting, if you would. And so here you can kind of see in cover 3 where, number 2 is going vertical and they're bringing number 1 in. You see here's our cover 3 concept where now he becomes the flat player and the corner takes over the 3rd.
Right.
So that allows us to be able to attack RPO purposes. And so if teams are doing this stuff right here, we're just pattern reading it to where we can still match all the routes, still protect the middle of the field, and force the ball wherever we feel like we want the ball to go. So here we're in a pirate front. So we're playing pirate right there. And, they messed up and didn't block the 3 technique. It's amazing how many times it happens in the course of a season. But this actually happens quite a bit for us right here.
Wow.
I think it's mainly because we switched from a 4-man front to a 3-man front, where maybe it's something they're not working all the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
It happens more than it should. So right here, again, we're playing a quarters concept right here. So you can kind of see how this works with motion. And see how simple this is. When we get motion, the only guys that are having to really move are our safeties.
Right.
They're spinning a single high. And so now we're able to keep the box the same for run fits. And we're able to gain a lot of overlap on everything else. And so now, here's the 3rd down and extra long call. And we're able to create the overlap to where we have bodies that can go make plays. Here we're using a line movement with it. So you can kind of see here, a line movement we utilize a lot is just stepping the D lineman to A gap and then wrapping the nose outside. That's one of our biggest line movements that we like to utilize out of any front. It doesn't matter if you're playing bare front or playing 4s or playing 5s. We do the same stunt out of all the different fronts.
Yeah.
So it's something simple for us to where we can sit there and try to attack those things and try to just create penetration. Mainly, we do a lot of passing downs just to try to mess with those.
Right. Eat Cloudy, make it, close those windows up and Cloudy that read a little bit.
That's it. Because if you're looking at passing downs, you're probably going to get a lot of quarterback draw or draw in general.
Right.
Scenario. Same thing here. Just playing cover 3. So you can see how it plays out right there. We're playing single high. And again, we're able to sit there and play, get body for body, and be able to play everything high to low. And so for us, we show pressure. We do that a lot. We're gonna give the illusion of pressure a lot, whether we bring it or not. We'll see. But we try to be pretty balanced as far as that goes. I wouldn't say we're a blitz happy team by any stretch of the imaginations, but we are going to bring pressure. And for us, my whole blitz philosophy really is more so is we're going to blitz to either attack protection if we have a tip for protection, or we're going to attack a run fit, whether we know, whether it's a power blitz or trying to attack a full loss for power or counter or whatever it may be, or, teams running midline and trying to find ways to gain numbers that way. And so here again, single high. So again, you can see how we're able to get the hats there. So we're, here's a bubble and we have 3 for 3.
Right.
So the matchup's not really there as far as being able to get guys up in space against us. But that's how we're able to be able to protect those things. So versus us, if you're playing, here's the matchup teams need to go to. And again, that's going to be our better player. And so we're going to put our best player over there to try and take those matchups as well. And if you have a corner that if we're struggling at that matchup on the backside, then we'll play squats and halves to that side.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And find a way to be able to take away your weakness. Or we'll show too high and spin to single high and try to take away that weakness with alignments. And so everything's kind of built into the same stuff. And then cover 2 will be the last kind of portion of it here. But again, working the trap corners with the safeties on the top. So again, if this was the matchup you're worried about, put the corner in the flat, put a safety to the top, and now this no longer is a matchup. Now you can force teams to have to throw the ball and get you a 3-on-2 concept from the backside. And so for us, we're kicking the backers in the box to get 30s, and now here's our extra safety right here. We just put him 10 yards over the ball, and he keys the H-back. So if the H-back were to go vertical, we carry him vertical. If he's not vertical, then he becomes the extra hold player. And that's as simple as it gets for our safety. And he's a hard run-fit player. So he's keying the H. If the H blocks for run, you're going to see him get downhill, trying to make plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. And so for us, we still count this as we still count the 3 here for run fits, and then the 2 here. So those are our 5-man box in theory. But then now we have 6 right here, and we have 7 right here, and then this would be considered our 8th man.
Yeah. And your Joker is going to be unblocked theoretically. I mean, they're not taking him into account in the blocking scheme. No,
he's usually unblocked. It's hard to get to that guy. Yeah. Corners are usually unblocked too. It's kind of crazy here. I mean, here we're getting a cover 2, and they end up getting the run fit. The corner kind of pulls the trigger a little bit slow right here, but he ends up beating and making a move on the receiver, and then fitting on the perimeter. He ends up showing up at the last second on the run fit. And then we're spill players with the inside backers. So we're going to work spill with those guys. And you see the safety in the middle as our alley player. He's working over the top. He's pacing the ball, and he's running inside out. So this is a great way to protect your single side matchups. So right there's your bare front playing a 3-2 box. There's your spill player with 42. And then there's your corner showing up to the perimeter.
It helps to have a nose who's back there in that running back's lap before he gets the ball too. That always helps.
It does. Those D linemen, they create a lot of havoc right there for those guys. And so, the crazy thing is when offenses see this box, they think run. And it's just you think, hey, you've got to have angles right there to get to some guys. But like right here, same thing here. You see the corner showing up in cover 2. This is not a hard play for them. They're just setting the edge. And then you're able to get overlap with your D-line, your linebackers, and your extra safety. And all they're doing is pacing the football. So right there, we're just playing a head front here. So there's your head front, and then there's us just playing overlap.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good play by the defensive end right here. He's getting a base block. He's 2-gapping it, sees the ball go on the perimeter, works off the block, and works down the line of scrimmage. Same thing here, playing cover 2. This time, they're running the ball away. So here's you're getting your spill with your linebacker. You're getting an alley player with your joker. and now you're still able to gain the same stuff here. So you see 33, it's cloudy clear rules. So he's just pacing the ball carrier. So he's reading off 35. So if 35 doesn't make a clear choice, he should be a spill player. He kind of goes, he spills late. So it kind of slows 33's read down where he just has to slow down and read the ball carrier. And here's 3x1, so we're working 3 skills. So, we're playing a special concept over here, which, people call it special or mini or whatever you want. We're playing man on the corner.
Yeah.
And now we're just playing a zone concept with the extra safety. So now this is our joker right here, playing a safety spot. Now we're still playing cover 2 to the single side. So, again, what matchups you're worried about? This is your matchup. And let's play a guy in the flat, put a guy over the top, and now try to force the offense to go somewhere else with it. And so you can see it right here where now we're able to take away that matchup and force them to have to go to the trip side, and we're able to match all the routes to this side as well. And the quarterback runs, so we plaster all the routes, so now it becomes just man coverage. And then up front, we call this a nut stunt. Now we're telling the nose, you're working you're working A gap to bounce, so that guard were to see face, he'd cross face, and then now we're going to bring him around and bring him as the second guy as the looper. It's just a change-up start for us right here. So now we're just bringing the defensive end around, and we have the linebacker as the boom backer. All right, and we're able to get pressure on that quarterback.
Wow.
Same thing here. Cover 2 to the backside, playing our special concept to the trip side. This is a 3rd and 2 play. Most times in 3rd and 2, we're probably not in this defense, but this is a team that doesn't really like to run the football. And so, if you watch tendencies and they're saying, hey, they still throw the ball on 3rd and short, we'll still play pass defenses on 3rd and short. If it was a team that was going to be a run-oriented team, probably wouldn't be in this defense right here. But you have those teams, and everybody sees them where if they threw for 400 yards and lost, they feel like they won the game.
Yeah.
And so So for us, you just got to make a determination of do you want to be +1 in the run game or +1 in the pass game.
Right.
And we have ways to do both, of whether we want to play single high or 2 high or whatever it may be. We have a way by calls to be able to set the run fit and be able to get to that +1 in either segment. So you see the Mike pulling the trigger right there, and then we're able to sit on the routes and try to make plays on those balls. And that's pretty much it. I have some clips on Tampa if you want to see it. I don't know how we are on time. But what all do you have any questions so far off the just base zone scheme right there?
No.
Or is there anything you want to take the conversation anywhere else, or what do you want to?
No, I think what I was going to say, and just as I've written stuff down here and just looking at it, because, you think about it, okay, and I'm thinking from a high school coach's perspective, if this is something that I want to put in as a sub package for my defense this year. So I need to identify that kid in my program who is, who can cover, but who also doesn't mind running up on the line of scrimmage and playing the run, right? Spill it, being a spill player. A kid who I love what you said is it's low reps, high productivity. So a kid who's not going to need a ton of coaching up on that, but you kept it simple enough to where, no matter what you're in, his responsibilities, his keys are the same. So it really is it's one of those things, kind of a, if you have the right kid there, you can plug him in and he can be fine there. And again, you're not depending on him. If he falls apart, the defense doesn't fall apart. So all of that
Right.
to say, I think if you can keep those things consistent, then that can be a really advantageous look for defenses who are trying to dictate to the offense. So
And one of the biggest coaching points for this whole thing is whatever your base football is, whether you're a 3-4 team, a 4-3 team, a 4-2 team, it doesn't matter what you are. Don't change up everybody else's responsibilities just to be able to get another guy on the field. So find a way to be able to run the same schemes that you would always run the same way and just be able to get a bonus player to the mix. That's the key to it right there, because everything that we run that's on here, we run the exact same thing out of a 4-3, exactly the same way. So that's what I was telling you, our safeties, I'm sure they know, but they could possibly not even know that we're in a 3-man front with a third safety on, because it's the same coverages that we're running out of a 4-man front.
Right.
So there's not any new teaching for our back 7, especially for the corners and the 2 safeties, because it's base football for us no matter what. It's the same run fit, same pass fit. nothing changed.
And even for your defensive line, obviously you're taking defensive tackle off the field, but at the end of the day, they're still playing their same techniques, whether it be shape, whether it be in their head. So it's not a, oh no, we're now in a 3-down front as opposed to a 4-down. It's just, all right, cool. We're still doing our same stuff that we've always been doing.
That's correct. Yep. That's exactly right. And so for us, we try to create as much crossover as we possibly can, because everybody's gonna be limited on time. You're gonna be limited on reps. You're gonna be limited on practice structure. So for us, we have the shortest practices in the history of Hardin Simmons. I mean, I don't know how everybody else does theirs, but I've been in a lot of different places. The longest we ever go, ever at Hardin Simmons is 18-period practice. That's the max. And usually when we get to week 4, we're to 15 periods as a max as a practice schedule. So you're looking at 15 periods. You're getting 4 periods of individual and 5 periods of team or whatever it may be, and then a little bit of crossover maybe. But you have to be very efficient with your time. So we don't have the time to sit there and be the exotic team that's doing 100 different things out of different packages just off reps alone. And so for us, it's got to be something that's very simple for our kids that we can get in and out of and not have to be sitting there and thinking and overcoaching things. The one thing I hope when we turn on film is I always hate to be in the coach that if you turn on film, what I say is hopefully what you see, and not going, oh, well, this is supposed to look this way. This guy messed up. And, you get to where you see that every snap, you're like, well, what are y'all supposed to really be doing? Right. And so that's the reason why whether it's pressures, we want to keep that simple, whether it's stunts, whether it's coverages, have something that your kids can execute at a high level. And if, for us, we play around it. We put stuff in for game plan. If you have a pressure you like, or whatever it may be. And if we're repping it and we're struggling with it in practice on the first day, it's gone that week. I'll say, hey, maybe we'll try it again in a couple weeks or maybe if we get a bye week, maybe we'll play with that again. But if our kids are struggling with it, I'm not going to try to pressure it to get in there just because I like what it looks like on the board. Because that's how you're going to get beat on defense. I mean, you're going to win the game with players and fundamentals, and that's what it's going to come down to. So try to put your guys in the best scenarios possible to be successful and have success, because that's where the confidence is going to come from. When you're having success, your guys are going to start believing in the system, believing in the culture you're building, and that's how you develop great defense. And so for us, it's a mindset more than anything. You got to get the guys to buy into what you're doing, but the only way to do that is to have success. And so luckily for us, we've had success at Hardin Simmons on defense side of the ball, especially. I mean, in 6 years here, over the span of 6 years, we averaged right at 19 points a game over 6 years, and we've had 2 years at 13 points a game. So that's kind of where we feel like we're at, and it's one of those deals where it's, success breeds success.
Yeah, and you're in a conference with a lot of heavy hitters as far as offensive teams go. Everybody knows Mary Hardin, Baylor, but then some other great schools in there as well that we've seen on film today. But Coach, I really appreciate you taking some time. I know we're getting kind of towards the nut cutting time of the summer when you guys are getting ready to roll out with fall camp and everything. But I just really appreciate you just coming on and sharing with us today, and a lot of great stuff for us to ingest, and hopefully these guys who got to watch this today can now take this and be able to implement some of this stuff in their own scheme.
No problem, Coach. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Thanks once again to Coach Wilkerson for joining us today. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at Coach Wilkerson and let him know you saw him on KYPD. That'll do it for us today. Have a great week. And dadgummit, man, keep your pads down.